Grr.
Hey, and welcome back to the Office Field Guide. I'm Chris from Mulverine Films. We're reviewing every episode of The Office ever. Today we're looking at Season 4, Episode 2, entitled Dunder Mifflin Infinity. As for most of the first half of Season 4, this is a two-part episode, making it an hour-long episode. As always, this is just a review of some of the funny things in the episode and some of my thoughts on it as well. Dunder Mifflin Infinity is the third and fourth episode of the fourth season of The Office and is 56th and 57th episode overall. It was written by Michael Schur and directed by Craig Zisk. It first aired on October 4th, 2007. It was viewed by over 8 million people. So let's jump in.
Somebody doesn't tell me, I'm going to start screaming.
So the setup for this episode is that Ryan returns to Scranton to introduce his new vision for the company called Dunder Mifflin Infinity, which heavily revolves around a new website that Ryan is having built. This spurs Michael to panic and do whatever he can to resist change, as he feels threatened by the changes the company is making.
This company is getting younger, faster, more efficient. You need to prepare yourself.
There's plenty of relationship subplot happening in this episode as well. Angela is still upset about Dwight mercy killing Sprinkles. While she seems to be trying to overcome those feelings by asking Dwight out on a date, she's overwhelmed with grief.
I can't do this. I can't be with you.
Kelly attempts to draw Ryan back into their craziness.
Well, I hope you're still committed because I'm pregnant.
We also get to see Jim and Pam's relationship go from private to public.
How dare you?
No one asked you anything ever?
This episode's cold opening is pretty good. It starts with a public outing of Jim and Pam's relationship by a jealous Toby. This comes in the form of a memo about PDA. This goads Michael into squaring up to Toby in a threatening way as he begins to divulge his and Jan's romp in Michael's office.
What we did has nothing to do with you or anyone here. I don't think anyone heard anything.
Toby confesses that the memo is about Jim and Pam, much to the office's delight. Michael gives an amazing speech, and then we get some great talking heads.
Everyone, this is a day that will live in infamy.
I don't see it. I think they both could do better.
This episode has so many funny things in it, but there are a few things that stand out to me. First, I love the usage of the security camera to see Dwight drop garbage off in Van's refrigeration. There's so many ways that joke could have been played, but this is great. I love it. I also love how Jim introduces the current Dunder Mifflin website.
Wait a second. Last time I checked, Dunder Mifflin already has a website. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure what's wrong with it.
For some reason, seeing that website makes me nostalgic for the old days of the internet, and it really brings me back to those times. Another great moment in this episode is in the conference room meeting.
Technically, he's right.
Hey, shut up, Toby. Look, why do we as a society...
So even when Toby has Michael's back, Michael still tells him to shut up. The Michael-Toby relationship is one of my favorite ongoing bits in this show. Another great moment in this episode is after Ryan finds out that Kelly's lied about being pregnant, we get this exchange.
I don't understand what the big deal is.
You don't.
No.
You lied about being pregnant.
Right? So?
You really don't understand why that might make me kind of angry.
No.
We're never getting back together.
Why not?
Lastly, and I don't even know why this makes me laugh so hard, but I love hearing Andy say about Ryan that he smells like what I think Pierce Brosnan probably smells like. That's just hilarious to me on so many levels. Like in most episodes, there's some great Michaelisms also. Here's a quick montage of some of my favorites in this episode.
And I miss you, man, and I love you. His words.
Hey, can you make that straighter? That's what she said.
So older people have just as many rights as younger people.
Yes, Michael. They do.
The turtles. Where are the
Summer
turtles?
sausage.
Where are the turtles?
Come on, guys, get out of here.
Where are the turtles?
I guess it should go without mentioning, but Michael and Dwight driving the car into the lake is both hilarious in premise and in the execution of their dramatic escape. 3 things I noticed while rewatching this episode for this review is first, I've never noticed that the cameraman stays in the car as Michael and Dwight escape. Michael even opens up the door for the cameraman. Second, I wonder what the heck is going on in the backseat of Michael's car. As the camera pans around, you see the metaphorical shot of the gift basket drowning, It seems like the back seat is raised up, like there's an inflatable or something. It probably has something to do with how the cameraman got the shot in the first place. Lastly, I don't think I've ever noticed Dwight yelling, "Look out for leeches," which seems to be the least of their problems at the moment.
Look out for leeches! Right up!
I'd normally talk about some hidden goodies here, but I really didn't find that many amusing details in this episode. There is one thing I had to research. Maybe I'm not well educated enough to catch this reference on the surface, but I found out that the foundation that was blocking Dwight's travel visa to Argentina are Holocaust memorial organizations. This falls in line with the loosely tied thread throughout the series that Dwight's family actually has ex-Nazis in it.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
There's a common theme running through this episode comparing the old to the new. We see this in Michael's plotline pretty clearly. Michael, fearing that he'll be run out of his job, begins to do whatever he can to prove that change is not needed, that the old ways of doing business are just fine.
Michael, technology helps business, okay? You should not resist it. This is the way the world is moving.
I happen to think that the old ways of doing business are better.
To begin with, Michael, in traditional Michael style, calls a conference room meeting to demonstrate that change isn't necessary. His hidden dagger said he's brought one of the founders, Robert Dunder, to Scranton branch under the guise of needing to inspire his employees. The writing in this scene is so good, as there are 2 telling things that develop in the founder's time in this meeting. First, we hear Dunder mention that Dunder Mifflin used to not even sell paper. I find this insightful and amusing because Michael's so determined to demonstrate that change isn't necessary when change has been part of Dunder Mifflin since the beginning.
I started this company in 1949. Back then, it was an industrial supplier of metal brackets, mostly for construction.
Secondly, as Dunder begins to ramble, Michael sees that he's losing everyone. He literally then shoves Dunder out on his own to figure out his own next steps.
Well, I came here in a cab. Perfect. Well, could you get me another?
This is a really witty way to demonstrate what Michael's actually afraid of, being forced out of the company against his will, left with no help, and all of this just because he's getting older. Michael's next best plan is to demonstrate that the old ways of doing business don't need improvement.
About the original instant message. Letters attached to baskets of food.
Obviously, this doesn't work well, as both clients shown tell Michael that they want a website. What's also really well written and underplayed in this episode is that earlier, Michael praises the GPS for knowing everything and being so useful.
How do they know? How does this know where to turn? That's very impressive.
But in order to prove his point, he forcefully drives his car into the lake because the GPS tells him to.
There's a lake there. I think it knows where it is going. The machine knows. Stop yelling at me. No, it's not.
The writers at the office seem to be conveying that change is inevitable, but they take it a step further by trying to show the foolishness of how we deal with change. In Ryan's case, he's forcing change on everyone for his own benefit. And in Michael's case, he's resisting that change out of fear for what might happen. This message is played throughout the episode in the relationships as well. Dwight and Angela have hit a fork in the road. They both seem to be willing to move on, with Dwight bringing in garbage as a gift, and Angela even attempting to go on a date with Dwight and even have a good time.
I heard a joke today.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes, it was.
What we see in their story is that if we fail to move on from things in the past, it can rob us of some future joy. This can also be seen in Ryan and Kelly's relationship as well. It only takes Kelly a matter of a few minutes to pull Ryan back into their drama.
You know what? You're right. I'm feeling kind of nauseous anyway, so you can just skip it.
As normal, the craziness of all the plots in this episode are juxtaposed to the realness of Jim and Pam, who've gone through their ups and downs with each other in the past, have grown through it, and are currently riding out the wave of goodness that inevitably comes. So to put this episode all together, it seems that the overall theme is to roll with the punches that are inevitably going to come in life. If you can do that, the trip is well worth it. Or, this was really just an excuse to give Michael Scott a reason to run his car into a lake. Alright, time to do the Dundies. The Dundie for the most innovative way to use printer ink goes to Creed Bratton.
I was going to put up some new pictures, but all of the ink in the printer was gone.
Oh.
And the Dundie for the best relationship gif moment goes to Jim and Pam. So for some ratings, I give the cold opening of this episode 3 out of 5. While it's not the best, it's got everything we want in an opening scene. It has Michael making multiple cringy, crazy monologues. It has some of the most awkward Toby we've seen in the series so far, and it's got some great stuff from the talking heads. It's plot advancing, it's funny, and it's memorable. And as far as this episode goes, I give it 3 out of 5. This episode is extremely well written. It has so many funny things in it that I couldn't fit into this video, including Creed's bit in Michael's office, Ryan hitting on Pam, Dwight crying in Michael's car, and so much more. And while it's not on my top 10 list, it's definitely up there in quality. Thanks for watching this episode of The Office Field Guide on Dunder Mifflin Infinity. Next week, we'll be talking about Season 4, Episode 3, entitled The Launch Party. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Do you think I missed anything or left out your favorite joke? Leave it in the comments, or just tell me what your favorite part of this episode is. Or just tell me I'm an idiot and have a weird voice.
But you... I'm really sorry I broke. That was too good.
You might want to trim it a little.
No!
That applies to nothing. I'm sorry.